Thanks very much, Heidi, and can I acknowledge Elder Brad Bell for his very generous welcome to country. That's, I think, very meaningful. So, Prime Minister, to Ministers, to the Honourable Paul Fletcher, representing the Leader of the Opposition, Shadow Ministers, MPs and Senators, Excellencies, to the ACCI President, Mark Burrell, and to all the ACCI board members, to our sponsors, Amazon, Intuit, Assyria and Australian Made Campaign, thank you to you. As I start this evening, I want to mention some specific member delegations who are here tonight in force, and in particular Business New South Wales, who have a delegation of around 60 people joining. Many of them, of course, not just from Sydney, from the regional areas around New South Wales, and I think that's so. Thank you to you. It's a real, I think, demonstration of the connection and the influence of the Chamber network. Chemistry Australia, I believe you have a delegation with your young leaders here. And also the Insurance Council of Australia has their own delegation. So welcome to all of you. Now, the ACCI network is the largest and most representative business grouping in Australia. We cover small, medium and large businesses, but we do not stand alone. On many occasions, we work side by side with other organisations to advance the interests of Australian business. Recently, ACCI participated as part of a broad coalition of business groups concerned about the far-reaching impact of changes to workplace relations laws. And I acknowledge the leading role that the Minerals Council of Australia played in that process. Now, MCA Chief Executive Tanya Constable couldn't be here this evening, but her Deputy CEO Sid Morris is, so welcome Sid. And I also want to warmly welcome Geraldine Slattery, the President of BHP Australia, who is an MCA board member, so welcome to you. Tonight, I also want to call out the CEO of the Business Council of Australia, Bran Black. We warmly acknowledge the constructive working relationship with the BCA and the common vision that we share for a productive, competitive and prosperous Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, at ACCI, our aim is to make Australia the best place in the world to do business. We have much to be proud of, but we also see challenges which must be addressed if we are to achieve our competitive potential and to keep the economy operating at or near full employment. And it's a great achievement that we are so close to that position. We face an issues-rich environment. At ACCI, we relish the opportunity to take a leading role in the national conversation about the economic challenges that we face and the agenda for our future. I want to touch on a few key priorities following a day, I think, of very robust discussions that we had at our Business Leaders Summit. The first I want to mention is tax and fiscal reform. These are central to our agenda to boost productivity and competitiveness. Now, the government has delivered back-to-back budget surpluses. It's a significant achievement and one which deserves the full acknowledgement of the business community. But already we face a renewed challenge. The projected return to structural deficits is a serious challenge to the progress that has been achieved to reduce inflationary pressures to date. Government spending as a share of GDP is rising again. We firmly believe spending must be held at a level below 25% of GDP. Now, we commend the government for its recent efforts to reform the NDIS and aged care services. These reforms, which ultimately were achieved with bipartisan support, will certainly help to contain the burgeoning costs in these critical areas of service delivery. A healthy underlying budget position is a necessary precondition if we are to have any hope of undertaking the fundamental tax reforms that will help grow the size of the pie rather than simply redistributing the share of the pie. There's not been a serious attempt at tax reform for more than a quarter of a century. As a nation, we must urgently summon the courage to take this on again. At ACCI, we believe the company tax rate should be cut to 25% for all businesses. With the company tax rate at 30% for most businesses, Australian businesses are becoming less and less competitive with their OECD counterparts, where the average corporate tax rate now is close to 20%. We also want to see the instant asset write-off threshold be increased, we suggest, to $50,000. And it should be made available to businesses with a turnover of up to $50 million to make it a permanent feature of our tax system. The benefits of the write-off have been amply demonstrated in recent years, but each year the last-minute renewal needs to be replaced with an approach that builds certainty and confidence. Small business. It's a core constituency for ACCI, and earlier this year ACCI conducted its Small Business Conditions Survey, which revealed some deeply concerning trends. 82% of respondents considered that the growing burden of compliance was a significant issue. 61% of businesses, small businesses, said they had experienced an increase in the level of red tape over the past 12 months. And notably, 45% of small businesses said that they had considered closing their doors over that same period. When we dig into these responses, we learn more about the sources of the stress for small businesses. As always, the burden of tax compliance is an overriding issue. There's nothing surprising about that. But many small businesses are also expressing concern about the recent changes to workplace laws, changes to the definition of employment and arrangements for casual employees, confusing new arrangements for independent contractors, new powers for union delegates and increased rights of access, the right to disconnect, and higher wage claims that are not backed up by increases in productivity. The list of changes is far-reaching, and you can add to these the expansion of requirements under the Privacy Act, payday super, ambit claims for new leave entitlements, and a challenge now to junior pay rates and even more. To help ease the burden, we have proposed that the definition of small business in the Fair Work Act should be increased from less than 15 employees up to 25 employees. This would free many businesses from the adverse impact of regulation overreach on productivity and jobs. The response from the ACTU and from trade unions has been predictable, but sadly wholly false and misleading. Our motivation in calling for this change is to make it easier for small business to grow, to create jobs, and to ensure that economic security is there for more Australians in the future. We urge all parties to get on board and to offer a fair deal for small business. Now, there's much more that I could say. I could address the overriding importance of skills and training as a vital part of our strategy to reinvigorate productivity growth and the importance of international education as our leading services export. I could talk about our commitment to pursue a path to net zero emissions with ambitious but realistic targets to 2035 and beyond, a pathway which ensures that households and business will have access to reliable, affordable energy solutions which are driven by two things: the science and the economics. For now, however, there's just one final point that I will leave you with. Ladies and gentlemen, we come together at a time when many of the fundamental values and the benefits that business brings to the Australian community are under assault. A divisive and false narrative is being peddled by some in the trade union movement, those on the extremes of the political spectrum, such as the Australian Greens, and a few similarly aligned social activists. Views on the contribution of business are driven by perceptions of big business, and immediate associations with big business are often wrongly negative. Such views are not only harmful to big business, but they are also damaging to the interests of all business. In many cases, support for policies which are anti-business is all too easily manipulated by lazy and populist views from across the political spectrum. If you take no other point from my comments this evening, then take this. It is time for business to take a stand, to push back, to clearly articulate the contribution that business makes and the resulting benefits for individuals and for communities. We can ask who can take responsibility and work to change this situation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is us, the Australian business community. No single business group can do that in isolation. We must work across a broad front. Many of those allies are here in this room this evening. Combined, the leading business organisations have a powerful voice. We have a critical opportunity to work together to reframe the debate and to reinforce the reality that strong business leads to rising living standards for all Australians. This is my call to action. For now, entree is being served, so please enjoy your entree. In a little while, we will hear from ACCI President Mark Birrell, who will introduce our guest of honour, the Prime Minister of Australia. Thank you.